Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming. My name is Hollow and I'm back to talk more dinosaurs. We've been doing that a lot recently. There's a lot of these games to consider, but last week we took an in-depth look at The Lost Wild, an upcoming adventure horror game that features some incredible looking dinos. While the game looked very good, like a dinosaur alien isolation, there was one downside: the lack of direct combat with the dinos. But what if there was a similar game that will actually let us fight the dinos? Well, there is. I was recently made aware of Instinction, which is another upcoming adventure horror game all about dinos, but with more direct action. While The Lost Wild feels like an alien isolation type of game, Instinction is literally a spiritual successor to Dino Crisis. Instinction comes from the New Zealand studio Hasbane, with planned release in late 2022, is a mix of action, adventure, and survival horror, all around prehistoric creatures. You can play it solo or even in co-op, and it's planned to release on consoles and PC. This is their first official game they're ever releasing, and they're aiming to be, like I said, the spiritual successor to Dino Crisis. Now, what we've seen from the team has been, well, a few trailers showcasing the world and story, various mechanics and details they plan to include. There's been a few interviews. But if we take a look at the trailers, we've seen glimpses of the player climbing terrain, exploring the massive world, swapping between third and first person perspectives. Overall, it's a really promising concept that I think needs still a lot more development. There's this huge variety of dinosaurs, right? But not just that, but other prehistoric animals like the saber-tooth. When it comes to combat, I've seen use of powerful sniper rifles for a one-shot kill, submachine gun bursts, assault rifles, which seem like we're actually going to be able to customize them too. But from all the clips for the gameplay, it certainly didn't seem like an easy task just because we have a gun. We're going to have to use our brain, use terrain and stealth to get whatever advantage we can against these things. And that's what we've seen from the trailers. The concept seems strong, but no gameplay really showed me what the game's going to be like. It's just conceptual right now. So when we look at the website to get some more information, we can learn a bit more about the game. It tells us that this is a cinematic story-based action-adventure game, where we'll be fighting dinosaurs, exploring the world, solving puzzles in which the environment is both beautiful and treacherous. Through the story, we'll search for ancient artifacts left by an unknown civilization, which should help us with whatever it is we're actually doing there. They also tell us about the four main aspects of the game in a bit more detail. The extinct creatures of the world are confirmed, not just a variety of dinosaurs, but also prehistoric beings. They give us this list of creatures that are currently in the alpha build, but they've got a lot more planned from an interview I'll talk about later. The biomes we're going to be playing in are said to be both dangerous and beautiful, from forests to research facilities, canals and lakes, but the weather will actually dynamically change and supposedly make things easier or much harder depending on what happens. There's even elements of underwater stuff going on here. We'll be going into deep underwater caves and exploring. You'll have to hold your breath or make use of a ventilator to actually explore these places. And then you've got the weapons, which are apparently going to be fully customizable, which is an unexpected but cool detail. Basically, it seems like the attachments are something we can change out, swap out. We'll also be able to give them skins. But it's important to know that ammo will not be unlimited. It will be scarce. So you won't be able to just mag dump into every dino. You have to actually effectively use what you have. And then they go on to tell us about combat a little bit, saying that there's a very, very high chance you're going to die in all combat scenarios. So you have to be really effective with your shots. And in this part, they tell us that some beasts are actually going to be friendly. So it sounds like they have a plan to add some kind of, I don't know, pet system, maybe a mount system. But in general, when it comes to combat, they expect us to play it very smart if we ever expect to survive these encounters. It certainly sounds tough. Hopefully they can implement that in a fun way. It's also said that there's going to be a mix of melee and ranged weaponry, but I've only seen guns. I haven't seen any examples of melee weapons just yet. So from the short trailers and sparse information on the website, we have a Dino Crisis spiritual successor attempt here from a new team. Visually, I think they know what they're doing. It looks really good, but it is a big question on mechanics. Those trailers are obviously very alpha, and I want to see more polished in the future from this game. It's a cool concept and an intriguing story and a lot of potential to work with, but I just get the feeling that this game is still in need of a lot of refinement, you know, from what we've seen so far. Fortunately, the lead dev, Richard Gold, had an interview to answer some questions about the game, giving us some idea about what they plan to add to it next. For example, while we have that list of creatures in the current alpha build, they have 98 in mind that they're adding to the game currently. That's a huge number. And interestingly, he was asked about feathered dinosaurs, as that's something that, you know, we've had a lot more information that suggests dinosaurs actually had, and he was being asked if that will be represented in the game. He said that since they're using Unreal Engine 5, they're capable of feather creation. What he says about it in general is really good to hear. Basically, he says that, yeah, it's been proven that many iconic dinosaurs were actually feathered, and that they're not just fans of Dino Crisis itself, but are, quote, paleo-passionate. Basically, they love dinosaurs and want to represent them properly. And he mentioned that they'd be willing to update the game in the future, like after its release, if any new findings change how dinos actually looked and that didn't represent it properly in the game. Also, he mentioned that the game will be fully mod supported, so he encourages people to make their own too. For the world itself, we've seen just 3 biomes throughout the trailers: the forest, the underwater area, and the indoor facilities, and Rich tells us that the full game will have 12 biomes to begin with, so that's a lot of variety. So what do you guys think of Instinction then? I think it's nice to have something like this in development for a game that has real combat with dinos, but keeping them very dangerous and scary at the same time. From what we've seen so far though, in the very limited information, I'm keeping myself pretty reserved instead of hyped for this one. Where the Lost Wild seemed very promising, since it is fully funded and carefully planned out, this has the feeling of a small indie project that could go any way, really. It's a good concept, and I hope we get to see some proper gameplay and some real info soon, see a lot more polish, but it still seemed very conceptual to me. For now though, that is everything for Instinction. If you know any other cool looking dino games, then drop it in the comments. Maybe I'll have a look. But until then, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.